My name is Nicholas Elmi. I'm the chef and owner of Laurel in the Valley, Lark and The Landing. I've been a chef in Philly off and on for about 20 years now. For me, two things that have been fortunate for me in my life that I don't think a lot of chefs get the opportunity to do. My first chef job was I was named the chef of Lebec Fin in November 2008, which is the beginning of a financial crisis, and I had to navigate that. And then the past 2 years have obviously been very challenging as well. So I've learned a lot just in those time frames. I learned a tremendous amount about what it takes to survive as a restaurant. I have a better understanding of what it takes to keep these restaurants going, better understanding of what overhead is going to be, stagnant and what's going to fluctuate, and a better idea on how to survive a pandemic. Over the past couple of years, especially getting through the pandemic, we've done, we've tightened up things a lot. We've gone from being, 30, 45-day terms with people to predominantly doing COD with everybody. What that does for us, though, it gives us more of like a real-time idea about what the restaurant's doing on a weekly basis, almost on a daily basis, so that even when we go into Fridays, we know how much money we can spend for the weekend to get us through the weekend and still hit our numbers. It gives the chefs a better idea of where they stand food cost-wise almost daily. And it helps us keep the P&Ls pretty tight, so at the end of the month, that P&L gets turned around within days instead of weeks, which is traditional. The supply chain issues that are felt across America are often felt daily in the restaurant industry. We're watching our invoices every day for price fluctuations. We're drilling down all of our costs. We're trying to lock in costs with people. So if there is any form of a change, we need to be able to change the menu quickly. So we basically have dish templates that we know that we can use this dish with these ingredients, but if we can't get black bass this week, we can also substitute snapper. If we can't get snapper, we can bring in tilefish, and that dish can live on with different things involved in it. It just makes us a little bit more lucid, a little bit more liquid, a little bit more flowy when it comes to the restaurant and the changes to the menu. We never really had a problem retaining talent at Laurel until the pandemic. We lost a lot of front of the house people, but most of the front of the house people that we lost we didn't lose people to other restaurants, we lost people to other careers, which I was actually kind of happy about. But we looked at the discrepancy between what the cooks make and what the servers make, and it's a pretty large gap on a yearly basis. The salaries would be a $45,000 to $50,000 difference between a server and a cook. So it's how do we bridge that gap a little bit more? Fortunately, in Pennsylvania, we can tip pool the restaurant, and as long as there's customer-facing interaction, a cook can be in the tip pool. So we started having our cooks run food and explain dishes and talk to guests a little bit more. So everybody in the restaurant now gets paid, instead of their servers getting paid $2.83 an hour, then the cook's getting paid a salary, everybody makes $10 an hour and everybody's part of the tip pool. It's brought our back of the house salaries up to that $55,000 range. Our server salaries are still making $65, $75 grand a year, but everybody's only working 4 days a week, which is also great. Everybody gets a 3-day weekend, and they get a normal salary out of it as well. The restaurant's doing better. Our labor cost has gone down. So it's kind of a perfect storm for a small restaurant. For a large restaurant like Lark, it doesn't exactly work, but for a small restaurant like Laurel, we have 12 employees. Everybody's making more money, and the labor percentage went down. So it's kind of a win-win right now. Now, the cooks feel what the servers feel. If we have a slow week, the cooks are going to have a slow week. It's very much, it's turned it very much into a team. They understand, they being the cooks, more about the financials of a restaurant. We talk about every day how much money we spent this week, how much money we can spend this week, how much money we have coming in this week. They have a better idea of how to run their own business when they go off in the world. They also have a better idea of kind of a front of the house mentality, which is, this week we're going to make a ton of money because we're crazy busy, and next week we might not. So we're not blowing our paycheck every week. We're saving a little bit of money. It's been a little eye-opening for everybody, but also who better to run a dish to your table than the person who made and cooked every single aspect of that dish and explain. If you have any questions, the person you're going to want to ask is the person that made the entire dish. So that's been kind of fun. It keeps everybody nice and presentable. It keeps everybody kind of minding their P's and Q's. Being able to have an open space where we can spread people out more. We have like the 14-foot ceilings. We have a gigantic dining room where we can open all the doors and windows. But everybody still has their own form of comfortability going out. I think it's going to slow down a little bit over the next couple of months as we come out of the pandemic. But, for us, it's really been, just communication with the customer, letting people know several times over what your standards are for your business. Because, again, there are the state laws, the city laws, and then what the business wants to do. And we have to follow what the business wants to do. If I'm saying that you have to wear a mask and you have to bring your vaccine card every day, that's what we're comfortable with. Like, you kind of have to go with what the business does. But, everybody has their own level of comfortability. If you don't want to go out, you shouldn't be going out. If you're going to go out and complain about other people out, you shouldn't be going out, But for us, it's always been the communication between the restaurant and the guest and what our expectations are, so you don't walk in the door and not have your expectations met, because that usually starts the day on a wrong foot. We've all been in either survival mode or on lifelines for the past 2 years. I've been very fortunate that our restaurants have survived, and we've actually opened 2 restaurants in 7 months in the middle of a pandemic, which I thought was crazy. But unfortunately, it has stifled creativity. All the new concepts you see opening, they're not pushing the envelope. They're not trying to do something new. A lot of people are just trying to do what they think is comfortable right now, which is great. Everybody likes pizza and pasta. Why not? We can always have another pizza and pasta restaurant. But who's pushing creativity right now? That's where I'm interested to see what happens over the next couple of years, because we've had kind of 2 years of a creative roadblock. Meaning, not only can we not get the supplies that we want, because nobody's really picking specialty items right now because they're harder to find, but also people aren't creating new spaces that are built on, pushing the envelope into being creative, kind of gastronomic restaurants. We're creating things that people know and love. So it'll be interesting to see how it kind of ramps up. I'm hoping within the next year or two that it ramps up really quickly and we start doing, we find a lot more younger chefs who are willing to do a little bit more. It's going to be scary over the next 10 years, I think, because you don't see that huge influx of culinary students wanting to jump in because they recognize more and more, and they read the headlines over the past 2 years about how hard the industry is. My best advice is to remind young cooks that the food is the easy part of running a restaurant. The food is the fun part. Being creative and coming up with new dishes and new flavor combinations and new plating styles, that's awesome. I love that part of my job, but that is a fraction of my job. The rest of my job is managing people, managing guests, managing staff, managing numbers, managing our costs. There's a lot that goes into it that doesn't involve you holding a knife or holding a spoon or being behind a stove. I had this thing in my head for such a long time that I only wanted to do fine dining, I only wanted to do tasting menus, I only wanted to do hyper creative things. And now it's I can be hyper creative making donuts, I can be hyper creative making pasta, I can be hyper creative making sandwiches. And it's kind of made me feel okay, I can start branching out and doing more things now. What the past couple of years have taught me is that as long as we do something really well, people will enjoy it.